So as you go into that process and you're interviewing, all the teams are bringing you in, they're talking to you. Actually, our colleague John Gruden said that you blew him away on the whiteboard.
I have some questions from Coach Gruden.
Yeah, so Coach Gruden fell in love with you immediately. I'm assuming that you talked to a lot of teams that were not ever going to be in a position to draft you. But how did those interviews go with teams that just kind of wanted to?
I'll be honest, I didn't talk to teams that weren't in a position to draft me. I think they didn't want to waste their time. I didn't want to waste mine. I should say, the 49ers staff was all my old Stanford staff, by and large. So, of course, to talk to them and hang out and chat, when at the combine and show up. I wanted to get that experience and go to the room where everybody's sitting there and grab, that was cool. But, I only really spoke with Indianapolis and Washington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and again, I think I knew.
Yeah.
And Indy did make it somewhat clear eventually that, we'd like to pick you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just having, the horseshoe and luck next to it.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like it was destiny at that point.
It's destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want your Gruden questions right now?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. What the first one, he said you have the greatest snap count in history, so he wants you to do the snap count. He's like, you've got to get him to do the snap count.
Let's talk snap count for a sec, because
Okay.
this is such a niche part of playing quarterback that I worry so much with this whole clap thing.
Okay.
And I think there's value to the clap, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Pat Mahomes is incredible at it.
Mm-hmm.
I bet if your stats, if your analytics team, I saw the whole analytics coordinator.
We've got a
Have
big
you
department.
seen our analytics team? It's these
team.
three guys.
Big analytics
It's
team.
Pug.
How many PhDs between the
They're just going to Google it, and they'll probably Google it incorrectly.
But I bet if you look at how many offsides he's drawn over his career since starting, I bet it's going to be probably the highest ever.
It's because the refs cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
for the
about anything
Chiefs.
about that.
Rodgers.
And then Rodgers.
Yep.
Yeah. So those two I really enjoyed. Certainly Aaron, because he was older and you grew up watching, and I remember all the free plays. I feel like he would just hit a touchdown every other game to Jordy Nelson on a free play that was busting. They'd throw it up, or Randall Cobb, it was awesome, or James Jones. And then when I got to Stanford, Jim Harbaugh would do a lesson for us on. He's like, you gotta have a voice to play quarterback. You gotta have a voice. You gotta have a. It's gotta be gravelly. It's gotta cut. It's gotta cut through. It's gotta cut through everybody. You gotta cut. You gotta cut. And so he wanted us to have and not like red. It had to have it had to cut. It had to go. So I embraced it. I think part of what I loved about playing quarterback, there's all these little things that you actually can work on.
Yeah.
And working on a snap count was something that was fun and enjoyable. And we didn't draw a bunch of people off sides at Stanford, not at all. But we were doing double counts and long counts because we actually had play calls where we killed and alerted things and needed to see what the defense was doing. So I feel very fortunate I was taught how to play quarterback while I was there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw, the way Greg Roman taught run game to me, it was a gift. Right? I think I got to, it was awesome. That's what the identity of our team in many ways was, this very physical, tough, smart run game. And also when I got to the NFL, I felt like I'd been prepared to handle a run game.
Right.
And if you can't operate a run game in the NFL, there's only so far your team's going to go.
Right.
I think I truly believe that. And then snap count. Once I got to the NFL, though, Bruce Arians would dog my snap count in the first minicamp because I would sit there and go, and go Siggo, red 80, just draw it out because I was thinking. I was like, oh fuck, this is overwhelming. I'm playing an NFL defense. And Andrew, wait, and BA in his voice, which I can't do a great impression of, who was amazing as well and worth probably a podcast series on him as a coach.
Yeah. He had some very nice things to say about you too.
Yeah, we've had him on a couple
nice
times.
Things to say about BA as well.
So we asked Bruce Arians if you were to take all the quarterbacks you've ever coached, because he's coached so many great quarterbacks, and if you were to piece them together by body part, by brain, okay, whose legs are you putting on here? Whose right arm? Whose brain? Whose heart? Whose hips are you taking? He goes, I'm going to stop you. It's just all one person, and the answer is Andrew Luck.
Yeah,
for everything.
That's very kind.
So he thought that you were the best quarterback at everything that he'd ever coached. But I'm sure that there was something like when he was working with you that you guys just clicked immediately and kind of got each other.
He was awesome. He taught football and looked at football in such a different way, and he coached everybody hard, and and it was and I appreciated that so much. And then he'd cuss you out or like, whatever. Very colorful, like an odd mixture of like East Coast and Southern accent. I don't know quite where it lands.
Yeah.
With like real pirate-filled language. And like he'd tell Bear Bryant stories. Like, oh my God, he coached under Bear Bryant at some point. Like,
Yeah.
That's neat. But like with the snap count, he's like, Andrew, what are you doing? Speed it up. Like we got to go. And this was part of his thing. Bruce he didn't care about time of possession. He cared how many points he wanted a point a minute. If we couldn't get a point a minute, what's the point of holding on to the ball? What does it matter? But he was awesome. And then I realized in snap, like, so with snap, I'm gonna go back to the snap count because it's related to Bruce. Bruce was really fun to play with. I had him for a year, and it was an incredible year too because Coach Pagano got sick with leukemia, and Bruce took over, and like I was certainly very focused on playing quarterback because you have to be. It's too overwhelming of a position to think about much else. Requires, but like it wasn't only honestly till I retired and looked back like, oh my God, like Coach Pagano was going through he was in a cancer ward 5 blocks from the stadium. Like that's scary,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. And so BA guided that ship, and then certainly got the opportunity to be the head coach and have this amazing success, which we were super stoked for. But with snap counts, because we got to go back to snap counts.
Gruden said you have the best ever, greatest snap count in history.
It wasn't. But I started to realize like Anthony Costanza, like left tackles. Like I think there's like 2 personalities that play left tackle. Like either you're completely type B and just like chill, or you are as neurotic can be and just like so focused on everything to help give you an advantage, because it is a tough position to play. I mean, really, really, really tough. And so I realized that Anthony and I started having these conversations about how to help each other, and realized snap count was needed. To absolutely, and it's obviously there's self-preservation as part of that. But realize like when you're under center, on the hut, if you're doing a hard count, you needed to flex your bottom hand to make it look like the ball is about to come. So if you had a 3-tech or a nose who got the jump on hand, like you use that. You had to marry snap counts and words from previous, and I wasn't, this was a thing. This was an iterative process, so I was certainly better at it at the end of my career than not. But snap counts. I hope football doesn't lose snap counts because they're too good.
Yeah.
You try to get me and Big Cat to jump?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways, but like the biggest way is this. Everybody knows, hut is like the word to go.
Yeah.
So I preferred the hut rhythm as opposed to the hut rhythm.
Okay.
Right? So an on one would be like, so go, color number hut. So go, green 80 hut. And that's the ball snapped, right?
Yeah.
And so then a hard count, the one I preferred, the one I settled on, the one I'd consider as part of my it's my baby.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious if other coaches or other quarterbacks think about this. Was like the so go green 90 hut.
I jumped. That was awesome.
I don't get to do that enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's your baby.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go walk through the airport. I'm gonna walk through Midway today, just thinking about that all day.
That's great.
You'd be like, got you to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.